Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Google Camp 2021. I just wanted to go ahead and present our speaker for today, Brian Lopez. I hope everybody's enjoying their session so far. And if you have any questions, again, for SCID or tech support, please go ahead and send a message in the chat, and I will be more than happy to help you. Today's presentation is called Digital Tools for Creativity with English Language Learners. Brian, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to you.
Okay, welcome everyone. Good morning. Let me get started. If at any point during this presentation you cannot see my screen, please let me know. That will help me to help you. And if at any point during this presentation you have a question, go ahead and type it into the chat. I will try my best to answer the questions in the chat. During my traditional school year on Zoom, I was not used to the chat because I work with English language learners, and I emphasize the use of the English language. So I apologize if I don't check the chat as often, but I will try my best. So if you have a question, I will have designated stopping points throughout the presentation to ask and answer questions. And if I still don't answer them, then feel free to contact me on social media or to contact me via some other means that I will tell you towards the end of this. And with that in mind, while you wait, please check out this presentation link where you will find access to all of the resources that I will be using today. This is a hands-on workshop. I will go out of this screen to a different screen, and the more you participate, the more you will get from it. And because this is recorded, this is fantastic. So you can always come back to it and you can learn again. So with that, I will get started and go ahead and check out this link. I still see people coming in. So in the chat, I will put the bit.ly. Actually, it's already in there. Fantastic. So if you go here to the bit.ly, there is a link like this, where if you click number 1, you will get a copy of the presentation that I am currently giving you. This is a public copy of it. And then there will be some other things that I will be using throughout the presentation. So please make sure you go to this bit.ly, or you can write it down and you can go to it later. Thank you. So the title of this presentation is called Digital Tools for Creativity with English Language Learners by me, Brian Lopez. So welcome to my presentation. This project was completed by first grade English language learners. This project I did this like say 2-3 years ago, but the content of this project is so useful, and it's very rich that I enjoy talking about it any chance I get. So with this project, this is like a begin with the end in mind, like where I use all of these tools to have my students complete a public oral presentation. And I chose first grade because first grade was the lowest grade that I had, that I could have them do this independently. And I will tell you about the students that I work with in just a second. My name is Brian Lopez. I have just completed my 4th year teaching as an ELD and intervention teacher for grades TK through 6th grade. I work in groups of like 10 to 14, 15 students at 30 minutes a day. I service approximately over 80 students per day, and we do ELD or intervention all day long, which is really fun, and it's really a unique class that I don't think many school districts have. And I work for the Rosemead School District. I got my teaching credential and my master's in digital teaching and learning from Azusa Pacific University. I am a current CUE Los Angeles board member up until the year 2023. And on the right, I have all of those digital certifications in all the products that I use, and I try to max them all out. As you can see, I got Epic Master Teacher of the Month. If you look on the bit.ly, it's number 3. There is an article that I co-wrote there. And if you check it out, it's really fun. That talks about my current school year that I just did. So it's pretty inspirational. And like I said, I work with English language learners. So this project was completed by first grade students. The purpose of this project was to find out what they wanted to be when they grow up. I do have a media release for most of these students, but because this is online and this is recorded, that's a gray area that I don't want to take any chances with. So for their privacy and for their safety, I just put happy faces because we were all happy while we completed this project. So the first part, I will describe all the EdTech tools that I use. And I think the key component was having a one-to-one device. In my classroom prior to COVID, I was fortunate enough to have my own Chromebook Cart. And within that Chromebook Cart, each student had their own device that they used every single day. So I use Flipgrid, Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Sheets, Google Classroom, and Epic Books. Now, I think the key to my success is having a solid routine. And like I said, I only have 30 minutes per day to work with these kids. And this was done over a span of months. So this wasn't done all in one day, but towards the end, I could do all this like in maybe like 1 or 2 days with these kids, because there was a routine that was well established. So it's just fantastic. So this is a result of a project over several months of work of routines. The first thing is, the most important part was that each student had their own device, and this was their dedicated one-to-one device. And to help them log in, each student has their own composition book with their user ID and password on the back of the book, and that alone helped me from having to type in having them type in their password every time, because they were not dependent on me. They became self-sufficient with each other, and so this was a very vital tool. One other vital tool is that I have a number system that I use with all of my students. So this works across all of my grade levels. So whether you're student 1 in 1st grade or student 1 in 5th grade, student 1 sits at table 1 and student 1 gets Chromebook 1. So that type of classroom management system allowed me to use technology to the fullest and seamlessly amongst all grade levels that I teach. Google Classroom is a very vital tool, because the students don't have to type. They just click and they go exactly where I need them to go. On the left is a Google Classroom sample. On the right is a Google Docs sample. Now, for the purpose of this presentation, I couldn't have a Google Classroom because there's a lot of restrictions, and it just makes it harder for us to kind of simulate the type of environment that a ELL student would have. So to kind of ease that, the presentation links and all of the links that I would put in Google Classroom, they are all on the Google Doc. So it's kind of like almost the same thing, but not really. But it's just so we can have the same experience, and Google Classroom is fantastic. The second, well, this is my most favorite tool, but Flipgrid allows me to capture and document the students throughout the school year, and they just click speak and they can record themselves. And one of the features that Flipgrid has is that you can export directly from Flipgrid into Google Classroom, so that the students don't have to type anything. They just click and they log in, and they can go there. And the best thing about this is that you don't have to tell them like the code or anything. They learn the routine of logging into their Chromebook, going to Google Classroom, and then finally clicking on the exact link that you want. So this is a very good tool. The other fantastic tool that I like to use is Epic Books. If you read the article on, it's from my Epic Teacher Master of the Month, it's on link number 3. It goes into more depth on how I use Epic Books inside my classroom. And one of the fun features that I like to use is the read to me function, because that allows all students to be able to enjoy the story even if they can't read. So this is also a tool that I use, and I also put certain links from here into Google Classroom as well. With that, I'm going to see if there are some questions in the chat, and then I'll begin my lesson. Okay, I think we're great. There are no questions. So the whole purpose of this project was to ask my first grade English language learners, what do I want to be when I grow up, or what do you want to be when you grow up? Now, this concept alone created excitement. They were all interested. They had like 30 different ideas, but it was fun, and this kept them engaged for at least a week or more. And well, because it was new and it was fun. So the very first thing, we started with a career selection. So instead of just orally telling me what they wanted, we all shared a Google sheet. And the one thing that I have learned is that you don't have to master Google Sheets in order to use Google Sheets. So I put the link for this Google Sheet in Google Classroom, so they went to this exact sheet. Now, it did take me a couple of tries because the students were like all over the page and they were excited and they all wanted to see themselves type, and they were typing over each other, and it was organized chaos at first. But then I went to a system here. So student 1 goes in box 1, and then they would type in their name there, and then student 2 would go into box 2, and so forth and so on. So the first thing that I had them do is that I had them type as best as they could what career they wanted to be when they grew up. Now, as you can see, the spelling is wrong, but I did not correct it at the time because I don't focus on spelling. I focus on success, and by success, I mean that I focus that they use their letter sounds to best sound out the word and to actually type that there. Once they all filled it out, then I went ahead and I locked the Google Sheet, and then I typed in the correct spelling with them as I was teaching it during the classroom. Yes, during the class. So with that in mind, I will go to my next part. Now, this is a part where we will participate and we will pretend that we are ELL students and we are doing the same exact thing. So the students in the classroom, they would click on the link in Google Classroom. But for the purpose of this project, us as the audience, I would love it if you would click on link number 4 in that bit.ly. And if you have not checked it out, this would be a great time. And this is where I can meet you. So it's right here, link number 4 for the Google Sheets demo slide. And if you go here, so this part of the sheet, I would be projecting it on my projector, or I could be projecting it on my smartboard. So when I teach tech, I teach it live and I teach it there. And yeah, we do make some mistakes, but we all learn. And the purpose of this is to learn technology and to learn how it all flows. So if you could pick a number, just don't pick number 4, 4 or 5, because they were here yesterday. And if I was to do this in the classroom, I would say the same exact thing, and I would model it the same exact way. So if you please pick a number if you would like to participate, and just if you choose number 2, make sure that you are number 2 for this one and for the next project as well. So in box number 1, please type in your name, and then to the right, please type in the career that you would like to be when you grow up. And as I'm talking, I can see that some people are participating, and then when the kids would see this on the board, they would be like excited. They're like, "Oh, look, I can see myself. I can type my own name," and this created a type of engagement that the students had not experienced before. So this is all real. It's all in real time, and it's very exciting. Now, as a presenter, I'm also excited because I get to see you guys participating, and this makes me happy as well. So this is very, very cool. So thank you very much. For the purposes of modeling this, I will be number 20. So I'll just put in my name, Mr. Lopez. And it's a little bit small, so I can just borrow from over here. And exactly the way that I'm telling you is how I do it. And then if it's wrong, I just say, "Oh, let me fix it," and I fix it in real time. So when I teach tech, I like to do like walkthroughs and think-throughs of everything that I am doing, so that I can model the type of language that I would be using. And the fun part about this is that you may not see it at first, but the students do pay attention to everything that you do. And then you can start to see that same type of language, being expressed by them in future projects. So this is good. So if you're number 1 here, just keep that in mind. If you're number 2, keep that in mind, and so forth and so on, because we will be doing something similar for a different part of this presentation. So I see a teacher, a pediatrician, a cook, a police officer. This is great stuff. And if your name doesn't come out well, I can help you. And that's one of the cool things about this being done live, is that you can help the students from your computer wherever you are in the classroom, and that just blows their mind because you're not at the board. Like you're supposed to be at the board when you fix things, but when you're doing it from far away, they're like, "Wait, how does that work?" And then that gets them to think of all of these other things that they could do there. So it's a great model that you can work with. So thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Nisa, Jessica, Lisa, Jenny. I'm not going to name everyone, but thank you very much for participating. This takes the whole experience up another level. Okay, so I'm going to move on, but if you would like to continue filling this out, that is fantastic. So I will move on back over here, and I will continue with this one. So I had multiple lessons. One of the lessons was a police officer. I had a student that wanted to be a police car, and no matter how hard I tried, I cannot get the word police officer because he wanted to be a police car. And I'll explain that in a second. So for the police officer lesson, I found this video from the sheriff's department, and let's go ahead and see what it says.
Hi, I'm Deputy Torres.
Hi, I'm Deputy Delgadillo.
Today we're going to walk you through what a test day consists of. We're going to guide you through it step by step and take you to each station so you know exactly what to expect. Keep in mind that on the test day you're going to have 2 portions. It's going to be a written exam and a physical exam.
Hey guys, the test can be somewhat long, so make sure you pay attention to the instructions and listen to your proctors.
Okay, so that part where they said that there was going to be a test, they all kind of lost it. They were like, "Wait, we have to take a test to be a police officer?" And I said, "Yes, you need a test so that you can be a police officer." And before I could speak, somebody else said, "Yes, because you want the best people to be police officers." So just this alone created a classroom conversation that they all had to use their English skills to try to comprehend what was going on, and why was there a test. And this also gave me the opportunity to explain what a written test is and what a physical ability test was. So some of the students that had trouble writing, they were like, well, if I want to be a police officer, I have to make sure that that I can write well. And then somebody else said, well, what is physical ability? And I said, well, that's like if you're fast, or if you're slow, or if you need some help, or if you can jump, or if you fall. And then as I was explaining this, somebody said, well, if you're a police officer, you have to be able to run and jump so that you can catch the bad guys. And I said, yes, that's exactly why you have to be able to run and jump and do all those things. And then somebody else said, well, if you're too slow, then you can't catch them because they're too fast for you. So then you can't pass this test. And I said, well, that all makes sense. And this created a genuine dialogue by just having this particular lesson. Now, at the same time, I took notes using Google Docs so that they could see how you could take notes using Google Docs. I didn't have them use this because there's not so many ways that you can confine them to one spot in Google Docs, but they saw that I could take notes, and they saw that I was keeping track of everything they were doing at the same time that they were putting it into their composition book.
Hi.
And then from that one, then I challenged them to find a book on Epic Books on what they were researching. So this particular student, he couldn't read, but he could write and he could type, and he followed the routine of using Epic Books. He typed in police officer or police, and he found this. So then this is where he said, see, I want to be police car. And I said, oh, you mean you want to go in a police car? And so this is how I was able to understand him, and because he was able to use all of this there. So the one feature that I like about Epic Books is that it can read the book to you even if you can't read. So I will go ahead and show you that in just a second.
Officer Bob hears. On my way, he says.
So the student really loved this book. He read it like 4 or 5 times, and it kind of freaked me out because there's a siren in there. So I kept like staring. I'm like, where is this police officer? So yeah, this was a really fun way to make sure that they can understand what they are doing.
Officer.
So with that in mind, these are all the student responses in their journals, and we did a different career every day, or if we kind of like, if we did it like either with a day or with either every day, or I try to do every other day, except some went over like one day. But the one thing I've learned about this, which was not planned, is that if student number 4 wanted to be a doctor, and I started this on Monday, student number 4 knew that student number 4 figured out that by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, on Thursday was their day. And as the day got closer, they got more and more excited because they knew we were going to talk about the career that they wanted. So that just increased their participation more and more. And with all of this, the behavior problems that I had, they kind of went away because they were interested in what they were learning, and they were interested in what other people wanted to be and like why they wanted to be it. So it was really exciting. With that, I modeled all of this by using Google Docs, as I said, and I had one student that was absent, and they were sad because they were absent. I believe they were sick or something. So this was all pre-COVID, and they wanted to know what a previous student had. Let's say it was a soccer player, and then they were like, oh, well, they're like, oh, but so-and-so wanted to be a soccer player. Like, what did you show them? And before I could say anything, one student said, Mr. Lopez, click on soccer player A and show them the video that we saw. So I went ahead and did exactly what they said, because not only did they express themselves, they knew they expressed themselves exactly to what they wanted me to reference to and what I had shown them. So by showing them this in Google Docs, it was really amazing. I'm going to stop for questions. Are there any questions up until this point? Yes. Epic Books is fantastic. I just love Epic Books. If you read my article, it explains everything about Epic Books. But the one thing I will say from it is that Epic Books is my on-demand library that I use every single day. And yes, this will work for all students. And thank you for all your positive comments. From that, we move on to Google Slides. So after we learned about our careers, we went to Google Slides. And like I said, for Google Sheets, you don't have to be a master of Google Sheets to use Google Sheets. So with that in mind, you don't have to master Google Slides in order to know how to learn how to use Google Slides. So we learn as we go. I think the key to, well, this project has many keys, but one of the fun keys for this project is this. I created this this digital graphic organizer to fit the needs of my students. And I'll explain exactly how this works in just a minute. But I needed the right slide, the right graphic organizer that was explicit and that had everything that I wanted. And once I had this, I explained it, and I'll explain it to you live. But this allowed me to be able to show them how to use this. And then I was able to apply this to several other projects past this career lesson. So it's a very, very valuable tool. So my advice is that you start with one, and you can use that same one multiple times for 4 different things. And with that, let's go. If you could please click on link number 5, and I will explain this as well as I do this live with you. Click on link number 5. So if you were student number 1 in the past one, please click on table number 1 on your left. And if you're student number 2, please click on table number 2. And I believe I was student number 20. So I need to click on the left and then click on table number 20. Now, this took an enormous amount of patience because once we hit delete, it like shifts everything. So this did take me a while, but the first thing that I do in here, I just let them explore, I let them play, and then I go ahead and I put them all in their spot. So if you were paying attention, I said, please click on table 16, 17, 18, 19, or 20. Now that is explicit wording, because on your slide, there's box 1, there's box 2, there's box 3, and there's box 4. So the first thing that I had my students do, I had them click on their table. And once you click on your table, then you would click on box 4. Now in box 4, you put your name. So this way, if they were shifted, then I could put the pieces back together. And if I want to take it up a notch, I would have them put their number and name. So my number is 20 and my name is Mr. Lopez. So this way, if table 20 was somehow table 18, I knew that somewhere along the line, there was a slide that went missing. So if you have them put their number and name, that helps you tremendously. And it goes back to the whole classroom management system where you use numbers. So this is very explicit on their table and on box number 4. From that point forward, then we click on box number 1 and we put the title of what we want it to be when we grew up. So I put a cook, and then I will wait there. And like I said, for the previous example, this would be shown on my smartboard. And one tool that I use is down here on the right. There is on the bottom left, there are 2 little boxes. If I click on the boxes that looks like a chocolate bar, I click on that one, and I could see my whole class in live time, and I could see exactly what they're all doing by just clicking it here. So at a glance, I could see that tables 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, they are all great. They're all doing great. And I can see that maybe table 1 needs help or table 2 needs help because table 2 is not here. So, but I do know that table 2 is present. So then I would go help table 2. Say, hey, table 2 or student 2. I'm like, do you need help? And then I would go back here and I could just, at a glance, I could see everything that is going on. So this little tool is fantastic. Then I can go back to mine and click here. Or if the student was doing something that I really liked, then I could just highlight them by just clicking on here. And then I could say, good job, Leslie. You are doing fantastic. Now for box number 2, could you write one sentence that you had inside of your journal? And then student number 8 or Leslie could write what they were doing in the first sentence that they wrote in their journal. And as I'm talking, the student would do it, and then everybody would see what they were doing, and that would be a different form of modeling. And then all the students would be like, wow, well, I want you to call on me. So it shifts the whole conversation from where I don't want to be called on to please show mine. And so this is another form of engagement that I love to show. So I believe you can just, for the purpose of this presentation, you can just put whatever you want. Now, I was very explicit. So when I taught this, I taught it several times because I failed so many times, but it was beautiful. Because the one thing I wanted to make sure that they knew how to do before I moved on is that they all mastered box number 1, box number 2, and box number 4 before I even touched box number 3. And the reason for that is because box number 3 involves multiple steps. And those steps, you could get lost if this was like so much information for one day. But if you are an upper grade student, then that should not be an issue. But like I said, this was geared towards first grade. So I would just come back here the following day. I would say, boys and girls, go back to your Google Classroom, click on the Google Slides one, and then that's a whole different genre. So then I would say, okay, for number 3, we need to add a picture. So we clicked on where it says mountain, and then there are so many options here. So for one class, I showed how to search the web. So it came here. Now, the one thing that the students learned about how to search the web is that if they copied the spelling of the word wrong, then it wasn't going to show them what they wanted. And yes, search for images is like 98% student safe. So sometimes, something else comes up and you're like, whoa. Like, let's fix your spelling, right? So I would do that and I would show them. So if I wanted to be a cook, then I would show them that one, you can drag it and just place it on here. And then it takes some time because this is the internet, right? And then if it doesn't work, you say, okay, well, that one didn't work. It doesn't like it. Let's pick a different one. Let's pick this one here. And then we would click insert and see if that worked. And let's pretend it worked. Okay, there we go. Now, one thing I would show them here is I would show them how to resize. That is an academic word. It's not an academic word that you need for like a test, but it is an academic word that you need to express yourself with. So I would tell them, we always resize from the elbows because that keeps the shape of our picture the same. Now, the beauty about that is when you hear a student tell another student, like, oh no, like you have to resize using the elbows, and then I would have a huge smile because they would say exactly what the word resize means, is to change the size. And then once I established the word elbows, because it's a physical pointy point on your body, then I would transition to using, we need to resize from the corners of your picture. So that would be there. And then I would go back and say, oh, let me check here. Like, let me see how everyone is doing. And then I would say, oh, Jessica, you did a fantastic job. Can you please work on your box number 2? And then from there, she would think, oh yes, box number 2, because box number 2 is not done. And then I could see over here, I'm having internet glitches, but that's fine. I could see like, oh, thank you, Leslie. And then I could spotlight her and I could say, I see that our friend Leslie has finished box number 1, box number 2, box number 3, and box number 4. Now, if you need help, please raise your hand and ask Leslie for help, because students learn better from themselves and not from the teacher. So that is something that also works really well with tech. So that was pre-COVID, post or semi through COVID. We'll see how we make that work. And one thing I always emphasize is that if the student is going to help another student, that they can help them, but they have to both use their words. You cannot physically touch their device. So that was pre-COVID, and it's gonna stay. So they would have to use their command of the English language to communicate how that the other student is going to fix whatever they need to be fixed. So after this, so that was box 3, and box 3 had a lot of information. That's why I teach box 3 by itself, but I teach it after I teach boxes 1, 2, and 4, because if the slide gets erased, then that's how that goes. So with all that said, a separate day, I would teach this whole thing over again, but then I would show them how to put a picture of themselves on here. Now that creates a whole another genre of things that could go wrong, like if they didn't press except for the camera and so forth and so on. So to keep it simple, I start with search the web. And with that, I hope everyone's still here because my Google Slides is having trouble. Oh, okay, let me just check this out. Oh, police officer, fantastic, Maria. And this is my number 4 from yesterday, fantastic. And here's my number 9 from today, my number 8 from today. Thank you everyone for participating. And like I said, each one of these tools was taught separately until we came to a level of mastery that we were comfortable with. Then we moved on. But the key here, which links everything, is having a number assigned to each student. And that helps everything just flow, because once you have that, there is no more room for like, oh, well, I think I was box 4 this time, or no, I'm box 5. Like, nope, you're number 4 from today to the end of the school year. And with that, I will go back to my presentation. Are there any questions up until this point? I will take a moment to get my sip of water. Okay. So with all of that in mind, now it was a time where we have paper combined with digital, similar to what we just did. But I believe strongly that younger students need to practice their fine motor skills. They can't just go straight to their keyboarding skills, which is another positive consequence of using Google Slides. But I believe that they need a combination of both paper and keyboarding, because your penmanship is very important, and your penmanship is what you will always use going forward, which is this also true for having your keyboarding skills. So with that in mind, I will check one more time. I think I have one question. Oh, thank you for the positive comments. So the one thing that you can see here on the left is a sample of the student work. This is real student work made from real students. And on the right is their Google slide filled out. The one thing they all noticed is that, like, well, why are there red lines under my words? And before I could say anything, somebody figured it out and said, that's because you spelled it wrong. And I said, yes, we might have spelled it wrong, but as long as we use our sounds, it's okay if it's wrong. Because if I'm trying to spell soccer, but I put a Z, then we know that we're not using the S sound. We're trying to use the Z sound, and that doesn't work. So I just love this transition here. Now, one other thing is that they learned is that, well, Mr. Lopez wrote it on the board like with correct spelling, but I didn't copy it with correct spelling. Maybe next time I need to copy the correct spelling. And I was like, yes, that is also fine. Like, you just do whatever is the best. But if I tell you something that you have to fill out on your own, then you need to use your sounds to fill it out as best as possible. And then this is my first example. This is my second example. My student here, he really wanted to be a doctor. As you can see on the left, there are X's. I use X's to symbolize a skip a line when I wrote on the board, and I believe in skipping lines so that we can see all the work, because they like to squish in all those words there, right? So they copied it, that's fine, but they did skip a line and they did do what was requested of them, and they were able to transition it to the right. And like I said, this helps them with their keyboarding skills, and this does take a little while because it's hard for a first grader to find the keys on the board, like where is the A when an A doesn't look like an A. On a an A does not look like a traditional letter A on a Chromebook, and then so forth and so on. So this took a while, but like I said, this was done over a couple of days, and we did this for a little while each time. This is my next student. As you can see, it took them a little bit longer, and their Google slide, it's exactly what they wrote on the left with no finger spaces. So they did a good job. They copied it exactly as they saw it. So this was there. And I try to keep everything to the minimum, like the top 3 things or the top 3 or 4 things. I don't like putting a lot of work because then they zone out and it makes it not fun. And this also sets the standard going forward that whatever we do, we need at least 3 sentences, and that always works. Or sorry, 3 or more. I'm going to pause right there, see if there's any questions. So from all of that, we finally got to put it all together. And this was the whole point, to have an oral presentation. So we did all of that legwork. We learned all of these tools, and they were engaged in every single step of the process, and not only in their own work, but in the work of their peers. So ready, set, go. So let's see how this works. So like I said, I have a Chromebook cart, and the more computers I have, I think of things and I do it. For this process, this is a snapshot of what the rest will look like. I used 3 Chromebooks, and I was logged into all these 3 Chromebooks for efficiency. So in the back, there's a Chromebook that is dedicated to the smartboard, and the kids, the students knew how to find their slide on there. And then the Chromebook in front that you can see, that one is a Chromebook that is set up to use Flipgrid, and it's on the grid right there, the one that I will show you next. And they will be recording themselves speak all by themselves. I have nothing to do with this whole project at this point. This is all done by them. He has a microphone that he uses to amplify his voice. And what I did not get the chance to picture, which once I get back to the classroom, I'll do it again, is behind this Chromebook that you can see is another Chromebook. And the reason for that is on that Chromebook, there is their Google slide that is also displayed behind them. So they have the Google slide displayed in 2 areas, one behind them so that they can see themselves recording it, and then one in front of them so they can actually read off of it. So not only do you have to go through this whole project and learn how to use all these tools by themselves, but you also got to learn how to read. And you have to learn how to read what you wrote. So with that in mind, they are able to read what they wrote on their own slide. And the one interesting question I have from this exact student here was like, Mr. Lopez, can I see more? I said, yeah, of course, you can say more. And he's like, but I didn't put it on my slide. Can I still say more? And I said, yes, you can say whatever you need to say, as long as you read what you wrote on your slide first. And he was like, oh, okay, this is going to be fun. So all these little things that you don't plan, they come out and they all work fantastic. So enough about me. This is about them. So this is the presentation. And like I said at the beginning, I do have a media release, but this is online and recorded and globally and so forth and so on. So to preserve the authenticity of the video, we're just going to go like this.
Hello, my name is Alfonso, and I want to be a soccer player when I grow up. And Leo Messi works for Barcelona, and he scores goals, and I think being a soccer player is cool.
So he completed the whole project. He was so excited about having the photo of those 2 fantastic soccer players, and that's all he wanted to do. But he had to learn this whole process, and he had to learn how to read, and he had to learn how to write. So this was a win-win for him because he was really involved in this whole project. So this was a fantastic achievement for him and for everyone. And this is my second student here, and let's see how he speaks.
Hello, my name is Albert, Before I grow up, I want to be a doctor. Doctor can help. The doctor help. Nurse help and be sicker. I want to be a doctor.
So the thing that you can see here is that he had to read his own writing, which is a little bit hard to read for us, but he did a fantastic job. And
Hello,
for the time's sake, I'm just gonna go a little bit faster. So this is my next student, and let's see how she goes.
Hello, I'm Sasha.
And that's all we get. Now, one thing about this student is, one, she's shy. Two, she doesn't speak English, but she still participated through this whole process, went through all this, and stood up to give her oral presentation. She said her name, she recorded it. That's a huge win. She did a fantastic job. And with that in mind, like I said, for the sake of time, I will jump directly into epic book reviews. So this will show, these are also oral presentations, and I have the same students. This project is towards Thanksgiving time. The previous project was March of the previous, like March towards the end of the school year for the previous year. So that will, we will see the student growth. So with this in mind, here we go. Also, this works the same way. There is the epic book on the back that we had read as a class. They have a, but this time they have a paper graphic organizer, and they were all to write their own notes, and they were supposed to read whatever they wrote on their own after they did this project as independent as possible. And I have one Chromebook with a dedicated Flipgrid that they all know how to use by themselves. So they didn't all need to use the computer. It's just one computer. And here we go.
Hello, my name is Alfonso, and people celebrate Thanksgiving. We celebrate Thanksgiving on the fourth Thursday. Thanksgiving every week. We can celebrate Thanksgiving.
So the one thing we learned from here is that we shouldn't color over our words because it's a little bit hard to read. But as you can see, he did a fantastic job. He read everything that he wrote on his own by himself. And this is my student from last time that was shy.
Okay. Hello, my name is Elsa, and this is you.
Okay, so she was able to say her name and I think two other things and that was a huge improvement from what we did last time. So that alone shows that not only did she remember how to use the whole process, she's still trying with her English language. These are my behind the scenes photos. Like I said, pre-COVID, we worked hard. We work hard every day in my class. We work together because together is better. And we learn from each other. And just as a recap, when the students first come in, they do a Flipgrid welcome video. I teach an amazing lesson on whatever the content area is. Then we have an exit ticket every single day on what they learned. If you would like to learn more, there's link 6 and link 7 about my adventures through Flipgrid. And thank you very much. The one thing I do ask of you is if you could please click on link number 8 to leave me a Flipgrid message saying, hey, this was fantastic, or hey, I can't wait to use this inside my classroom. Whew. All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
You did great, Brian. Thank you so much. We hope everybody enjoyed this presentation. Just as a reminder, the link is in the chat to go ahead and rate this presentation and your amazing moderator. And we hope to see you again next year for Google Camp, and we hope you're enjoying your sessions. Session 3 is going to start at 11:30, so we look forward to seeing you at the next one, okay? And if you guys have any questions, just go ahead and use the Twitter handle or Brian's email that we have provided for you. It's mrlopez@gmail.com or his Twitter handle at hello, Mr. Lopez.
Thank you.